Even though teams like the Celtics, Thunder, and Cavaliers are widely seen as the top contenders in the NBA right now, it does not mean their road to the finals is locked up. In fact, there are 4 teams flying completely under the radar that absolutely could cause some major chaos in a playoff series against anybody. And the first one, the Houston Rockets, are peaking at the perfect time. Over their last 16 games, the Rockets have been on fire. They've gone 14-2 in that stretch and have a real case for being the best team in the league during that time span. And at the time of recording, they just knocked off OKC in a statement win, very important for playoff seeding. Most people know them as the hard-nosed defensive unit, and that is very much still intact, as they're holding teams to just 108.6 points per game, ranking 3rd in defensive rating over the last 15 games. But what's made the difference lately is their offense, as it's exploded to match the energy that they bring on the other end. During this stretch, the Rockets also ranked 3rd in offensive rating, putting up a scorching 121.8 points per game. And a big reason behind this offensive leap, a lineup change that is quietly sweeping across the league: the return of the double big unit. Teams like the Celtics, Cavaliers, Bucks, and even the Thunder have started leaning into more size, but the Rockets are doing it better than anybody else. The logic is simple: more size means more rebounds, and rebounding is way more important than people give it credit for. It's not just about collecting missed shots, it's about closing out defensive possessions and creating easy second chance points on offense. It's the kind of thing that unlocks a full team's potential. For the Rockets, their version of the double big lineup features Alperen Sengun and Steven Adams, and it's been dominant. These two are crushing opponents on the glass, cleaning up misses, and creating easy scoring opportunities just by boxing out and using their size. And sometimes when Houston's running out of options, it doesn't really matter, because they can just put up a shot and trust that one of those two is going to get the offensive rebound. And here's the scariest part: the Rockets were already one of the best rebounding teams in the league before this change, and now they've been impossible to keep off the boards. They first experimented with this lineup earlier in the season and did see some success, but went away from it and just stuck to Sengun at the 5. However, all that changed in a game during Indiana. Houston found themselves down big and brought back the double big lineup, and they immediately outscored the Pacers 15-5. That got the coaching staff's attention, so they tried it again the next game against the Pelicans, and it worked again. And just like that, the winning streak was born. There has been other factors too, such as Jalen Green being much better with the ball in his hands, being a much better playmaker instead of forcing up shots every time he drives. But no doubt, the biggest difference maker has been this lineup change. Coming from Rockets fans, many people believe it was 100% of the reason why they've gotten on such a good streak as of late. It works so well partly because Sengun is built for this kind of setup. He's played alongside other bigs with the Turkish national team for years, so it feels natural for him to operate as a 4 rather than a 5. Offensively, it opens things up for him as well. He gets better matchups, and if the defense does decide to put the bigger body on him, no problem. Just toss it over the top to Steven Adams, and he gets to take advantage of a smaller matchup. Sengun basically becomes a point guard in this lineup, driving into the paint and looking for that perfect interior pass, something he's so good at, either a drop-off in the dunker or a lob up high for a finish. And the results? Unreal. When Adams and Sengun share the floor, the Rockets have a net rating of plus 38.4. That is more than elite. It's incredible. In fact, the lineup ranks in the 100th percentile for overall lineups in the league, along with being in the 99th percentile for offense per possession, along with being in the 100th percentile for defense per possession. Quite literally making it a cheat code of a lineup. The wildest part is that Houston had stumbled onto this out of desperation. They were getting beat, so they tried something different, and they accidentally found one of the best lineups in basketball. Now they're going to it every game, and it's becoming a cornerstone of their identity, as it's just another weapon that they have up their sleeves that will make them a complete nightmare to have to face in the playoffs. The second team that's getting slept on right now, but absolutely is built to do some damage in the playoffs, are the Minnesota Timberwolves. Everything is coming together at the perfect time. March was the best month in franchise history. Minnesota went 11-3, and Anthony Edwards was leading the charge, averaging 26.6 points, 4.5 boards and assists on a super efficient 55% effective field goal percentage. And it wasn't just Anthony Edwards. the whole squad has been clicking on both ends. Over the last 15 games, the Wolves rank 8th for defensive rating, holding opponents to just 111.3 points per game. But what's really turned heads is their offense. After struggling earlier in the season, they've now found their groove and have the second best offensive rating in the league over the last 15, putting up 122.2 points per night. It's been a total transformation on that end, and a lot of that comes down to Julius Randle. Earlier in the season, Randle was slowing down the offense. He was dominating possession, forcing up bad shots, and the ball movement was basically non-existent. The offense felt stuck, but after he went down with an injury, it gave Randle a chance to step back and watch the team without him, and in that time, the ball movement started to pick up, and when he returned, Randle came back different. Now Julius Randle is playing within the system instead of trying to be the system. He's attacking with a purpose, collapsing defenses, and making plays off drive and kicks. He's swinging the ball quicker, taking better shots, and keeping the offense flowing. Instead of everybody standing around and watching him dribble, now the whole team is moving, cutting, relocating, and reacting, as they now look like a proper high-level offensive system, and that number 2 offensive rating completely backs it up. But what really makes the Timberwolves scary in the playoffs is their depth, as they might have the best playoff rotation in the NBA. Off the bench, they've got 3 legit two-way threats. First up, Dante DiVincenzo, an underrated defender and a relentless hustler who can knock down his threes at a very high level, whether it's off the catch or pulling up off the dribble. Then there's Naz Reid, who's a walking mismatch, as he brings instant offense off the bench, and he's proven that he can hold his own defensively as well. Just look back at last year's postseason, as he had some pretty impressive stretches guarding Jokic, which is basically unheard of. And finally, there's Nickeil Alexander-Walker, the ultimate glue guy. In a recent win against Denver, he straight up carried the team in key moments, finishing with 26 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 blocks, and game-winning free throws in double overtime. He defends, spaces the floor, plays with energy, and does everything you'd want from a bench spark plug. Together, those 3 give Minnesota a second unit that can absolutely hang with anybody. Combine that with their great starting 5, and you've got more than just a team built around Anthony Edwards. You've got a complete squad. And it's not just about talent, it's the mentality of the team that really sets them apart. The Wolves are built for a fight. They don't fold when things get tough, they embrace the grind, they're scrappy, resilient, and they've made a habit of pulling off massive comebacks. Just look at the recent game against the Nuggets, down 16 in the first quarter and they did not blink, cutting it down to 6 before the quarter was even over, or the time where they came back from 20 down in the fourth quarter against OKC in Oklahoma City while being short-handed. That's the kind of toughness you need in the postseason. Minnesota are not a fake tough team, because trust me, there are fake tough teams in this league. This team is legit, battle-tested, and mentally tough. And with how they've been playing recently, Minnesota isn't just a feel-good story, they are a real championship caliber threat that could absolutely knock off one of the favorites. The third team that is quietly built to make real noise in the postseason, but isn't getting nearly enough attention, is the Indiana Pacers. It feels like most people have already penciled the Eastern Conference Finals as a showdown between Boston and Cleveland, acting like the rest of the East doesn't even matter. But Indiana wants a word in that narrative. This team made the Eastern Conference Finals last season, and they've gotten better this season, especially as it's progressed, drastically improving on one area that had always been their biggest question mark: defense. Historically, defense has been a concern for this Pacers team. Last year, they were scrappy but inconsistent, aggressive on the ball, but their rotations often broke down behind the play, giving up open looks. As if you could just beat their first wave of pressure, chances are you were getting a clean look. But this season, that's changed. Over the last 15 games, the Pacers have ranked 10th for defensive rating, holding opponents to just 111.9 points per game. They've gotten much better with their rotations on defense, and while they're still aggressively pressuring ball handlers as they try and come up the court, they now have the correct backside help and rotations in place to actually complete consistent defensive stops. That subtle shift has made a huge difference. As good as the defense has been though, let's talk about the end engine that makes the team go. Tyrese Haliburton. While he missed 6 games recently due to injury, over his last 15 games that he did play in, he was phenomenal. Indiana went 10-5 during those games, largely because Tyrese was on another level, averaging 20.7 points, 11.3 assists, 2.1 steals while shooting 54% from the field. The number of 11 assists per game is incredible, but what's even more mind-blowing is how good he's been with the ball in his hands. Despite averaging more than 11 assists per game, he's only turning the ball over 1.2 times per game. That gives him one of the best assist to turnover ratios, not just in the league this season, but in NBA history. To put that into better perspective, John Stockton had a career assist to turnover ratio of 4.8, Magic Johnson 5.8, while Tyrese Haliburton is sitting at 5.6. That's Magic Johnson territory. That is absolutely elite playmaking. And to have that level of control from your point guard, that's a massive advantage when the game slows down in the postseason. But what really tells me how dangerous Indiana can be in the postseason is how they've performed when the pressure's on. Clutch time. When the games are tight and the lights are the brightest, the Pacers have been excellent. They rank 5th in clutch time offense, putting up 119.9 points per 100 possessions. And it's not just one side of the ball. They also rank 5th in clutch time defense, holding teams to just 102.9 points per 100 possessions. That's elite two-way play when the games are on the line. And as a result, they have a strong 20-14 record in the clutch this season. That tells you that when the lights get the brightest, Indiana actually gets better on both ends. So while everybody's focusing on Boston and Cleveland, Indiana is quietly sharpening their tools, tightening their rotations, and riding a wave of Haliburton's brilliance, putting them in a great position. Don't be surprised if they make another deep playoff run, because this team is absolutely built to do damage. Now, the fourth team that I believe isn't getting nearly enough love, but is built to do serious damage in the postseason, are the Los Angeles Clippers. The Clippers have been flying under the radar this season, and a big reason for that, the narrative. After letting Paul George walk to Philadelphia for nothing in return, and Kawhi Leonard starting the season on the sidelines, most of the media already wrote them off. Early on, those offensive struggles were real, but what really kept them afloat, and what continues to be their backbone, defense. Now that Kawhi's back in the mix, rounding into form, this team has found its groove, and they're peaking at the exact right time. Now, even though they're at the 7th seed at the time of recording this video, do not let that fool you. They only dropped the game when Kawhi was resting, and because of how close the West standings are, they dropped down. But when this team is at full strength, they are dangerous. Over the month of March, when they were healthy, the Clippers had quietly been one of the best two-way teams in the league. In that month alone, they ranked top 10 for both offense and defense, 9th for offensive rating, holding teams to just 111 points per game, and 5th for offense, dropping 121.2 points per game. That's elite two-way production. This isn't just a team with star names. They've got real substance. You've got a 2-time finals MVP in Kawhi Leonard, a former league MVP in James Harden, who's still one of the best playmakers in the NBA. But beyond the star power, this team has the key role players who fit perfectly. Guys like Ivica Zubac, who honestly doesn't get enough credit, as when you watch any Clippers game, Zubac not only holds his own, but he dominates. His touch around the rim is nearly automatic, as he can get those hook shots off with either hand, and on the season, he's averaging 16.5 points, 12.5 rebounds, and 1.2 blocks, while shooting 62% from the floor. That is top tier two-way production from your big. He anchors the defense and is quietly giving them reliable offense every night. Then there's Norman Powell, who up until recently had been the team's leading scorer, averaging just 0.1 points per game fewer than Harden now at 22.4 points per game. He's a flamethrower when he gets going. Then you've got Derek Jones Jr., Chris Dunn, Amir Coffey, and Nicholas Batum, who have all contributed big time, especially on the defensive end. And now with the addition of Bogdan Bogdanovic, they have shored up a three-point shooting weakness from earlier in the season, and it's now becoming a strength. The team has depth, it has experience, and it has two-way players across the board, while also having the grit to go toe-to-toe with anybody in the Western Conference. So while the media might be more focused on the surging Warriors and the new-look Lakers, do not sleep on the Clippers. They've been quietly building, staying healthy, and finding their rhythm at the right time. In a 7-game series, they could be a nightmare for any team to have to go up against, especially if Kawhi is healthy and locked in. And speaking of the Warriors and Lakers, both just went head-to-head in one of the most anticipated games of the season. And in this video, I broke it all down in detail. Every key moment, every adjustment, and most importantly, who I believe would win in a 7-game series and why. And if you want to see that breakdown, you can watch that video right now.